Cicada Detroit is a really fun puzzle series based off the famous internet mystery Cicada 3301. It starts off fairly straightforward, but steadily ramps up in difficulty until there are some truly fiendish, but always well designed puzzles. I've been enjoying playing these over Christmas, so let's go. First one is just Morse code. I love to use CyberChef for solving this type of thing. Allows you to easily compose different decoding operations together and try out various ideas. So this next one is hex encoded ASCII. Gives us a URL for puzzle number 3. That's just a hidden URL. This next one, the runes, probably look similar to anyone who's played the 3301 quest, but these are just generic runes which you can translate online like this, giving you the URL to puzzle number 5. Now this one is audio. My first thought was that it might be playing a tune that's got a message in it, but actually it's the EXIF data of this MP3 which has the solution in it. This next one uses an external puzzle site embedded in the page. Apparently this puzzle site is very popular among geocaching people, and if you solve this puzzle it pops up with a box that takes you to this URL /no-exit. This again is another EXIF puzzle, which it even tells you in the puzzle name, which sets up a theme for Cicada Detroit where the names of images are really important clues. Now this is the first probably slightly challenging puzzle. It's a sequence which you have to complete, and this clicked for me as soon as I thought of it in terms of numbers, and I thought this could be a number sequence. And then I thought, what, that could be 2, it could be 3, this could be 6, it could be 7, and then when you see the 2, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, the next one would be 24. Yeah, this one is a bit harder again. It's just a phrase that we have to complete, an encoded phrase. So my first thought is when I see text like this is to try a Caesar brute force, Caesar cipher, and then we get a hit here with the amount 3. Be sure to drink your... Now if you search this, you will see that this references a famous clip where inside a cipher there's an advertising message, and it's supposed to be this really disappointing moment, isn't it? So this one now is another classical cipher where the alphabet is based around a square. There's a few of these. There's a Polybius cipher, but I think that uses numbers, and so you'll soon find there's this one called a Playfair cipher. You can use this really cool website decode.fr, which has automatic decryption algorithms for a lot of these classical ciphers. So this gives us a link to Hello World X. Puzzle number 11. This is another really creative one, which I enjoyed. So each of these locations points to a place in Australia, and the key here is not leaving Google Maps on this default graphical view, but to switch to the layer view, and then you can see that each of these locations points to a place where the satellite can see letters and numbers. So for instance, here's another one. It's a C, and if you put these all together step by step, you get this next link. This puzzle had me stumped for a while. It's more of a riddle type thing, and it seems to have quite a literal message, and for a while I was looking for First Ladies of the United States who were addicted to prescription drugs. There were one or two, but that's actually the wrong line to go down. Now, the thing that cracks this riddle open quite quickly is when you remember that it's based around Detroit, and you've got these streets here, Joe and Jake. Well, we don't know they're streets, but we know we're looking at a physical location, and there's old friends Joe and Jacob. And then as soon as you start thinking along those lines, you might have a look to see if there's a Jacob Street near Detroit. And there's this Jacob Street here, and it intersects with Joseph Campout Avenue. And then you find near there is this Painted Lady Lounge, which corresponds to the first part of the clue. This used to be a punk rock bar where there was this cocktail called the Valium, and it used to be called Lily's 21, which turns out to be the solution of the puzzle. Now, a thing which a friend showed me, which really turned me on to how amazing AI LLMs have got, is that you can actually solve this through in Gemini now. If you just give it the little prompt about Detroit, it actually works out the riddle out following the same logic that we just went through, which I think is pretty amazing. But yeah, very much the key to solving is this. If you don't think of that, you'll just go around in circles, because you'll find hits with the key phrases in that riddle with all sorts of things. This is more of a rebus type puzzle. I think this one is not necessarily original, so quite easy to Google the answer. But it's an alphabet missing the letter W, so there is no W on the. So it's no wonder. This one gets a lot easier. You see the number 13, and again, look what looks like some kind of shift. Once again, it's a rotation, rot 13 cipher, and that takes you to a YouTube video. There's kind of a creepy voice, and it sounds like it's talking backwards. So the way I would deal with this is I use YTDLP to download the audio, then use Audacity to open it, and then there should be quite a straightforward way to reverse. F9VR6 is the next solution. It's another fun one. So what this is telling us, it's just two words, and it's an audio homophonic clue. 55.845 is the atomic mass of iron, and this is the date May 10. So Iron May 10, Iron Maiden. Nice and good fun. Horrible bit of high-pitched audio. So this is one of those kind of maybe know it or you don't sort of things, or it's something some people have seen before, but it's a really common one in puzzles and CTFs to have some kind of like audio like this. And what you need to do is look at the spectrogram of the audio. And when you see that, you realise why it doesn't sound very nice. So this one is another one you can probably Google the answer to, and it's just the pattern of the keyboard. So following the columns of your computer keyboard down, the next two are TGB, YHN. Puzzle number 18. Now this one is definitely one of my favourites. I love this puzzle. It looks like a key with these funny symbols in it, and you wonder maybe what they are at first. The name is Trappist.gif, which is a hint about monks, because it's actually a Cistercian numeration. I guess it's not really a cipher, but it's basically these arms correspond to numbers. When it's in the bottom right, it's hundreds. When it's bottom left, thousands. So this arm here, This first, it's got this arm on the bottom right, so that refers to hundreds, and it's the shape of a 7, so that's 700. And then it's got these two at the top left, so it's again that shape. Oh my bad, I think that's actually an 8 on it's 877. Would be the first number. And the really cool thing with this is that is it 877? It's something like that. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But anyway, once you decode this, you can use a tool like this. You find that these brackets indicate it's actually a phone number, and it's a toll-free phone number in the US. You call it, and a creepy voice on the other side reads out the instructions for configuring an Enigma machine cipher, which I've already done in advance here. He just reads out all these settings, and when you put that in, you get the next link, which is /Alan Matheson Turing. So I love this. I just love the idea of the Cistercian numerals being inside a little key, but also representing a phone number. I just think it's really cool. So that brings us to puzzle number 19, where the difficulty takes a huge step upwards. Okay, so the dreaded number 19. It starts off with a very difficult step where it just asks, what's the magic word? The hint for solving this is to look closely at the message you get with an incorrect answer. If you Google this, you see it's a reference to a hacker scene from Jurassic Park, where Dennis Nedry, the evil programmer, thwarts the attempts to get into his system, and says this phrase. Now, the difficult thing here is that the movie itself doesn't seem to have the answer in it. You have to go to the books, and then if you look at Dennis Nedry's passwords, you find one of them was Mr. Goodbites, which is the correct solution here. That brings us to step 2, where there is a Stegosaurus. If you download this, you see that the file name is gates are open stegosaurus is loose.bmp. And it also has a similar message here in the bottom right. If we open up StegSolve to have a look at the Stegosaurus, we see something interesting on red plane 0. Now, just a quick side note, what we're doing here is we're looking at channels in the RGB values. Commonly, steganography programs hide data in the least significant bit of the color, because that's the one that's least likely to have a effect on the visual presentation of the image. But using a tool like StegSolve, we're able to isolate just the least significant bit of the red plane and see that there's these dots here. So there's not a uniform color in the background, and actually there's data that's being hidden. The question is, how are we going to extract this data? And that's where we're being given a fairly big hint by the name of the file and also the text here. So if we look at the steganography tools in this list, steganography and images, there is one called OpenStego. Now, I don't think this list is 100% correct because this says PNG, but we also it also seems to work on BMP. But the thing to notice is that this program is being directly called out in the name of the file. So if we open that, OpenStego, extract hidden data, it doesn't require a password. We have this white rabbit object file here. Again, number 19 is not finished yet. We still have a stage 3. So what do you get when you combine promoting the use of trustworthy artificial intelligence, federal government, Saul Hudson? So these things can mostly be Googled. This relates to a specific federal order. This is the guitarist, who's also known as Slash. This is an M72 gun. If you put all of these things together, you get the following URL, which redirects to a online copy of the Jurassic Park book. And then we have to apply the book cipher. So just to give an example, page 17, line 5, word 8 is slash, which does seem to correspond to the solution. So if we then go and solve that book cipher, we are led to this: can you hear the buzz of the cicadas? 109. Puzzle 20. Finally, puzzle 19 has been conquered. So this one, just opening this in Audacity. So this one is cicadas who are singing clearly in a Morse code pattern with long and short signals. If you decode the Morse, you get the phrase Morse Cicada 125. However, that's not a valid URL. There's clearly a second step here. And this is where, following on from the hints and the direction that the puzzle 19 has shown us, is useful. Because if we look at steganography tools that involve WAV files, there is one here called Deep Sound, and the name of the file is Deep in the Forest Sound of Cicada. So that is a clear hint. Deep Sound is only available on Windows, so I'm going to copy this to my Windows VM, and we're asked for a password. So we use the Morse Cicada 125 message, and there's this file here, AU13, extract it, and here we go. That one's solved, and we now move on to the next puzzle. My bad, that one is just coming up ahead. So, puzzle 21.
Okay, Man Ray, are you ready for your first day at Goodness School?
So this one is a video MP4 called Mrs. Puff 1 Pass 50p Max 2. So by this point, you clearly get the idea. Looking for steganography in video, there's one called Open Puff. So it's quite clear that this is the one that we should be using. Again, it's a Windows only tool, so I have it open here. The full file name is Mrs. Puff 1 Pass 50p Max 2. Here we could configure the Open Puff bit selection option to be 50% maximum. It says 1 pass, so yeah, we can disable these second passwords, B and C. So the real final question here is about what the password should be. And at first I thought this might be Penelope. That's the name of Mrs. Puff in the SpongeBob series. But what is the intended hint here is that the URL has this A number in it, as did the file that we previously recovered. So why are there two of these? Well, if we watch the clip clearly, there's this A number here on Patrick's passport, or sorry, his driver's license, and that corresponds to this password A in Open Puff. So we pop that in and unhide, and a file was successfully recovered called A Secret. Whoops. Copy and paste seems to be struggling all of a sudden. So puzzle number 22. What do we have here? We have a poem and this black square. Looking at the acrostic, we have red herring. Although I wouldn't say this is 100% a red herring, because the URL Reconnaissance General Bureau 121, this refers to a Korean hacking unit, but also RGB is obviously a really important thing in steganography, and we've just seen a puzzle where in the Stegosaurus the red channel of RGB was important. So let's have a look at this HCC in StegSolve. And have a look at the red plane, and aha, here are some clear directions about what we need to do for the next solution. So if you're familiar with HTML RGB color codes, they are 6-digit hexadecimal numbers preceded with a hash. So if we convert these decimals to hex, we will get the color OODO84. Now what does that color look like? It's a kind of nice green color, which is a good sign, because obviously that's one of green and black are the official colors of Cicada. It doesn't work as a solution though, and that's because there's this final step here with the arrow pointing 1, and after trying a few things, it turns out that you need to shift across all of the numbers in this RGB code, and then you get to puzzle number 23. Okay, so puzzle number 23, we have this Picasso painting with the name "Do You Know the Key to Success?" So googling that, we get a quote from Pablo. "The action is the foundational key to all success." And since this is a PNG file, we have a key. We previously used this OpenStego tool, so I'm going to use that here. And now we have a password action, and we successfully get a text file called orfailure.txt. This gives a link to an external website, ibb.co, where there is this famous painting, The Scream. Now, why is this hosted on an external website? Well, I suspect the reason is that it's a really huge picture. It's just enormous. And it's called 1632 times 1266, even though that the dimensions of the picture are much larger than that. So if we save it, yeah, it's almost 10 megabytes. And I'm going to open it up in the GIMP image editor and have a bit of a closer look. So yeah, if we look at the full zoom size, it's absolutely enormous. Now there's something quite interesting here. If you look at the context behind this painting, that there was an inscription by the artist, could only have been painted by a madman, which apparently was in response to some criticism that he received. And then if you look at where this inscription is, it's somewhere on the top left of the painting, and that gave me the idea of, well, these dimensions we're given here, 1632 times 1266, maybe we should have a look at that in the image, have a look around this part of the image right at the top. So you can see on the bottom left there's the current position that I have open in GIMP. And if I go to around those dimensions, 1632 times 1266, that leads us directly to this very faint piece of text here, which gives us a solution to the puzzle. So very artfully hidden away there, and the huge image now makes sense. So can only be solved by the MAD 1893. Now this is a pretty challenging puzzle. So we're told to complete the two parts in order. We have to find the rogue 14, and then we get essentially what looks like a list of random numbers. Just from guessing, I looked at the digits of pi and found that actually these numbers correspond very closely to the digits of pi. You see here we have 297897832, and there is something quite similar here in the digits of pi. So what I then did is I tried to compare the digits on this online diff checker, where you can do a character by character comparison, and there you find that corresponding to the clue, there are 14 different numbers between these two strings when you compare digits of pi at the same length of this number we have from the page. I actually wrote a small Python script just to extract those original numbers that were replaced and the replacements, and then if we take the replacements and then use that as a URL, we are told that our progress was logged. So the first part of the challenge was correctly solved. Now the second part of this puzzle had me stumped for a long time, and this is really sneaky. So we get this, we're told that to find the sum of all primes between two primes. Now these two primes that we found are two primes, but they're large enough numbers that getting the sum between them is computationally very difficult. So then I started looking at other ideas, like looking at the sum of all primes between the numbers that were replaced, but none of that led anywhere. And the key to this is to realize that there was a prize for Cicada Detroit, and these are prime numbers: 11,239, 21,347. And when it's saying between two primes, it's not saying the two primes you found, it's just saying two primes and is referring to the prize. So again, I have this, I have another small Python script here which just uses this library to find all the primes between these two numbers. And there we go. That's the solution, but very, very easy to forget. And then we're led to, that's not the end, we're led to the third part of this puzzle, which is a mathematical equation. Now this is a bit easier because you can just work through this, and just by eyeballing this, it's a bit easier than it looks. It looks really complicated, but this is saying for this term, as x tends to infinity, then this essentially just becomes 12 over 3, because the squared terms are kind of dominate. I don't know what I can't remember what the word is for it, but this becomes insignificant, and it just becomes 12 over 3 as x tends to infinity. So this whole thing essentially becomes 4 to the power of 13. This symbol is a product sum, so k is 1, 2, and 3, and we multiply together this whole equation when k is 1, 2, and 3. Cos squared x plus sine squared x is just 1. So as x approaches 24, that doesn't matter. This whole thing is just 1. So it's essentially 1 times 1 times 2 times 1 times 3 times 1, which is just 6. So this is 6 to the power of 8. And then we have this final part, which is minus this big number, then times e to the power of pi and I, the imaginary constant there. I'm not exactly sure why, but if you look at if you type this into Wolfram Alpha, you find that this just resolves to -1. So this ends up just being plus 2448617. So ultimately we have 4 to the power 13 plus 6 to the power 8 plus 2448617, which typing that into Python calculator gives us this number. Which is the correct solution, leading us to puzzle 25. Now this one seems to be a fan favorite. It's a really nice puzzle that points outside to the real world. So we have 3 parts. We have a date and a page, which points towards possibly some kind of newspaper or periodical. If you look closely at the word complete, the M and the T are bolded. If you do search for some Detroit periodicals, you'll soon find there's one called the Detroit Metro Times, which has this MT logo. So looking first at 18th of December 2024, there is a digital edition of the issue here, page 39. There is a message to decode. So I put this into CyberChef, tried a few things. It turns out it's an @bash cipher, which reverses the alphabet. So A becomes Z, B becomes Y, and that gives us a link to view. All that does is log our progress. It doesn't tell us anything more. And then part 2 has a Goldbug cipher, which again you solve, doesn't really give us anything more. So I'm going to skip that. And then part 3, this is a really interesting one. So the part 1 and 2 don't really give you a massive clue about what to do here. But what you need to do is search the site for stuff about cicadas. And then you find that there was an article in May the 5th, 2021 about them. So then if we then go to the May the 5th issue, which is all about cicadas, page 21. We know we're on the right lines because that's where that article is at this spot. So if we take this book cipher and apply that here, where the first line is the paragraph, the second is the word, and the third is the letter, we get a message that tells us to look at all of the numbers in the article and use that as the URL. I haven't completed it here, but if you do, you will eventually end up with this. You have to take the Roman numerals as well, and it gives you the solution to puzzle 25. And moving on to puzzle 26. Now this one is another cheeky little one. So at first we don't seem to have a lot to work with, but if we paste this message into a text editor, we see that there is some suspicious white space in both parts. Both look slightly different. So these are Unicode characters which aren't visible on the page, and they serve several purposes as they can be control characters in languages that use like right to left directions, for instance. But obviously somebody at some point realized that you could hide messages in this, and it could become yet another type of steganography. So with part 1 and 2, I didn't really know what tool to use here, but what I did was I found a small Python program someone had written which allows you to list what the actual Unicode characters are, or the code points are. So running this on this first text, it actually gives the answer here where there's www Cicada Detroit con, but it's a bit out of alignment. So there's a message here, give up your, oh, that's the plain text message, but yeah, there's a URL here. But then later on I found that the intended path was to use this particular tool, irongeek.com, and it uses these non-printable tags in this range. You put your message here and it decodes it to much more cleanly as the URL that we need to visit. I was just pointing out that you didn't necessarily need to know that tool for that one. You could have just done that by looking at the meaning of those characters. So this takes you to a Rickroll, but it's not a complete prank, because if you download the video, it's another OpenPuff job. So yeah, I've already put this in OpenPuff, and the password is just the name of the file, Cicada 2024. It gives us this file, a full commitment.txt, and yeah, then there's a link to log that we've solved part 1 of this Unicode puzzle. And for part 2, the really important thing here is this text: as you run around, include all zero width chars. It took me a bit of time, but then I soon realized that that was really important for the second part of the challenge. So going back to Vim here, which shows you the characters, we have these characters which are encoded as 20OB, 22A, 262, 20OC, 20 in hexadecimal, and there's only a limited number of Unicode encoders online, so I tried to look at ones which could possibly encode text using these types of characters, and this one cannot do all those characters. Then I found this one, and this seems to correspond with the message we got about including all zero width chars. So if we tick all of these here, unfortunately it won't work if you put the text in here and decode here, and I got stuck here for a while because I didn't notice that if you use this binary mode, you click decode here and then you click download hidden data as a file, then you will get a successful decode which gives you the answer. So this very much depends upon you, at least the second part depends upon you finding a particular tool and using it the correct way. The first part was a bit more, you could be a bit more creative, but that's fine. And that brings us to, it's not over yet, there's a final stage to number 26. So you get a slowed down Rickroll, and you get it's a WAV file with this name. I know we are playing hide and seek, but this song rock you to .wav. And this is the WAV thing makes me immediately think, you know, which steg tool is being used now, and one of them is steg hide WAV, but specifically this is something I found out while playing the game. There's now a tool called stegseek which can crack steg hide really quickly, as it's a fork of the original project where they can heavily parallelize the operation. So the other thing to be aware of, this is much easier if you've heard of it before, There's a famous password word list used a lot in information security and penetration testing called rockyu.txt, and that's actually the password list that StegSeq uses by default if you have it installed. At the directory user share word lists rockyu.txt. So I have it here, and I have StegSeq installed, and simply pointing StegSeq at this file will use rockyu, and it will crack the steganography that's hidden inside this WAV, giving us a text file you know the rules.txt2, which finally leads to puzzle number 27. These have a lot of extra parts now. Whoops. So puzzle 27 is another one that's kind of continuing the information security theme. This is a bit easier if you've done this before, and if you've got a powerful graphics card. So we have this hash. This is a how long is this hash? It's 32 characters long, which, if you do a bit of research, you'll find that this is most likely an MD5 hash, and it has it's a hash of a string which is 9 digits long with lowercase and numbers only. Now this is MD5 is a very old hash, and it's fairly easy to brute force just by trying millions of combinations. Now with lowercase and numbers only, you have 26 lowercase characters, and you have obviously 10 numbers, and you have 9 of them in total. So that's the number of combinations you need to try, which is about 46 bits of complexity. So due to the speed that MD5 can be cracked, it's not a lot, but at the same time, if your computer is really slow, it will take a long time still. Fortunately, I have a computer with a decent graphics card, so the next thing you need to know is find out what command you need to use to crack this. This is the command I came up with. Obviously, LLMs are very good at giving you this these days. So what it's saying is the hash mode is 0, that's MD5. It's attack mode 3, which means it's using a mask attack, where we specify a pattern to use. The position number 1 can be a letter or a digit. And then we have 9 of these position number 1s that we don't know about. And then we have the hash that we want to attack. Now, because I've already run this before, it already knows the answer, and the hash cracks to this. So that's pretty cool. The second part of the puzzle was a bit strange because it's much easier than what we just did before. It's just a ROT47 cipher, which gives us this onion URL, which you can access using the Tor browser. So if you open that using the Tor browser, you then get this cipher, which we apparently already have the other key to success, because it's like it looks like I don't know. I guess after you do enough of these things, you guess this might be a Visionaire cipher, among a few other things, and that automatically gets decrypted on decode.fr with the key failure, giving us this new URL, the Cosmos is within us, we are made of star stuff, which is a quote by Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan? I can't remember how you say his name. So this is a really tricky one, which I got stuck on for ages. So this is just a riddle. In a previous puzzle, this name once appeared, and as you moved right along, because the puzzle was cleared, but the name meant much more than originally known. One that circles this name has two names of its own. And there's also a clickable full stop here, which leads us to a song by the band Fifth Dimension called Age of Aquarius. So there's a lot here that's pointing towards some kind of celestial or astronomical theme. And so I guess the idea now is to go back through everything that we've seen before and try and find something that could link to an astral theme. And it turns out that's not Patrick Star. It's quite hard to find this because, in my opinion, in a sense, the clue was already used. But the thing that they want you to find, the name that they want you to find, is the name of this image here, which is Trappist.gif. Now, the reason why I didn't see this originally was because I thought that Trappist already had a link with a cipher being used here, the Cistercian cipher. And so I didn't feel like this was a name that I had moved right along from. But I think I was just thinking in the wrong way slightly. So the astral link here is that there is actually a red dwarf star called TRAPPIST-1 that was in the constellation Aquarius, which was found by some Belgian astronomers. And after trying a few different things to the puzzle, by removing a space and replacing this with a short hyphen. So this is a really cool puzzle that I enjoyed. At first it seems very difficult to understand what's being asked for. Find the vessel, find the lines. This is another one where you have to look into the source code a bit to get a hint. If we just inspect here, and well, actually it might be easier if we look at what's being loaded by the page. Because this site's running on WordPress, quite a lot gets loaded. But there's this alien SVG image that gets loaded. I think it is quite hard to spot, but from now on you definitely need to be checking that the HTML, if you get stuck for what else to do. And yeah, there's this alien image. But first of all, I want to say that there's a massive potential rabbit hole that you can go down on this puzzle 29, which is that if you reverse image search some of these symbols, it brings you to this bestiary Wikipedia, where somebody seems to have designed an entire world of their own with its own mythology and everything, and with its language, but there's no translation for this language, but they're using the same symbols or very similar symbols. So that's a ginormous rabbit hole. Very possible to fall down that. That's not the solution. The solution is based around, if you look at the source code of this SVG, because it's SVGs have XML based source, it gives you URLs to two other sets of symbols. So you have line 1 and line 2. So my way of solving this was to assume that this was a substitution alphabet. So this corresponds to, each symbol corresponds to a letter in the English alphabet. So I transcribed this line 1 and line 2. It's where each unique symbol has its own letter. And if you pop that in this quick quit solver, you can see that it finds the phrase that we had from the previous puzzle, The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. Maybe this one. Yeah, it's a bit temperamental, this tool, but as you saw, it was able to solve it once. And once we know the mapping between the symbols and the letters, we can then translate this one to the answer, which is you are now the cicada. So we now get a information for an SSH login, but there is a 4-digit password which has been shared socially. That is in the this Instagram post where the number is 9973. So if we do just SSH, password 9973, we are presented with this delightful interactive fiction game where we play as a nymph cicada. So there are 7 individual action words we must enter to move up. So you try typing some words and eventually find that these are these give us a response that's different to the just any other verb, and after 7 of them you get to the next level. So this is the so-called look-say sequence where we see 1, 3, so we say 1, 3, and then we see 1, 1, and 1, 3, and the 11th of that sequence would look like that. So we're going to read the paper, which has this hint on it, and after messing around a bit, find out that this is a rail fence cipher, which when solved gives up, down, down, right, up, left, down. What am I? Cloud is the answer to that nice little riddle. So that's pretty easy just to solve by hand or using AI. So this one requires doing it on the minute. So I'll just see if we're close. Oh yeah, we are. Oh, the moment passed. Anyway, yeah, if you do that on the minute, then you get this URL for the next puzzle. So the game must go on. 8782. Puzzle 31. Now this one is incredibly difficult in my opinion. It's just very easy to rabbit hole on this. especially what you see. This Armstrong symbol is a atomic sign for an atomic weight, and you start to think, what other SI units could this represent? What could this mean from a scientific perspective? But actually it's not to do with that at all. Again, we need to look into the source code a bit to see what might be going on here. So each letter or number, some unique but the same, decode the below and continue the game. What we need to notice is that there's this hint in a HTML class here, a plus b plus c plus a plus domain. The art has an alt tag saying domain, and there's this other thing here, a equals Bob Bemmer's child. So just thinking this through, we have A, B, C, A, and then domain is the solution. A equals Bob Bemmer's child. Then we have this cacher thing. Who is Bob Bemmer? Who is Bob Bemmer's child? He turns out to be the guy who defined the ASCII character code set. And then also apparently each letter is a number. And so then if we match this to this, we're looking at the ASCII of C, which would be, oh, that's the wrong thing to do, 99. The ASCII of A, which would be 97. Then we have the SH, which we're not too sure what to do with, but then the Armstrong symbol would be 197. And then we have these two other numbers to deal with. And I think what it's saying here is some unique but the same. And then these two are bolded. So I think that's supposed to be a hint that these two are the same. And one interesting thing about S and H is that they occupy the same positions on the alphabet from the beginning and from the end.